Hey there, welcome back to Ask Amy. So I have a question today from James. It never, it just always amazes me how these questions tend to be so consistent. How the same questions that are coming up that people send through Ask Amy are also coming up in Little School of Big Change, and they're coming up all over the place. And there tends to be these cycles where the same questions show up, and then those questions go away for a little bit, and new questions show up in their place. But I don't know. It just always amazes me. There's some kind of big synchronicity happening, I think, and we get on these wavelengths, and we all have the same stuff we're thinking about and concerned with. Maybe because we're all really one person. I don't know. That would make sense. But anyway, I'm going to read James's question. I know a lot of people will relate, no doubt. And before I do that, I just want to mention that the Little School of Big Change starts 1 week from today. So on March 1st, it's our spring course. Um, Super exciting. I love this time of year. Happens twice a year, and I love when this course starts. So March 1st is when everyone will come in. They'll get the first batch of content. They'll be on the forum introducing themselves, getting used to everything. And enrollment is open through next Thursday, March 4th. And so the pre-enrollment price, you get a $50 price break if you enroll before March 1st, before that opening week. So do that. I would love to see you. If you have any questions, I'm also doing a free webinar, just a Q&A kind of webinar this Thursday, and I'll put the link in the comments so you can register for that and just show up. It'll be super casual, just an opportunity to ask any questions that you might have about how the school runs, what you can expect, all of that good stuff. Okay, so James's question and everyone's question. So James gives a little background. He says how much things have changed for him since he's come across this understanding. He says, before I came across the principles, I was drinking alcohol heavily pretty much every evening, working long hours, ruminating about all the things I thought stressed me out, and just not looking after my health in general. It all came to a head when I was set to move to Japan in mid 2019. I pretty much had a mental breakdown, and after about a month of being absolutely petrified of my thoughts and struggling to go to work, I took my doctor's advice and went on antidepressants. Even though I was still freaking out a bit, I decided to move to Japan anyway. I was super lucky to have an understanding spouse and run into this conversation around the same time. Now I've been off the antidepressants for about 4 months. I no longer drink alcohol, and I've just started to improve my eating habits. That's awesome, James. My biggest sticking points, though, are the intrusive thoughts, which I just can't let be most of the time. Oh, which I can just let be most of the time, as they don't scare me as much as they did before, but they do make me feel uncomfortable from time to time. I also have the fear thought that if I take on too much stuff work wise, I'll get stressed out and it will come back like it was when I had the breakdown, or it'll be worse and I'll act on the intrusive thoughts, which I know is completely silly when I'm in a higher state of mind, but it looks more scary and possible in a lower state. I still struggle to see that I'm safe, especially in a lower mood. I kind of have to continually reassure myself, and that keeps me up in my head a lot of the time. When I'm in a low state, I think I'm going to forget everything and spiral back down, which keeps me hanging on quite tight. And then he says, I think I see this at a more intellectual level. The thoughts are still kind of sticky, and any feedback or comments. So, first of all, James, like I said, everybody has this question in the last week or so for some, and not just, it's not a new one, trust me, not just in the past week or so, but it's everywhere, and I really want you to see kind of what's happening. So we come into a new way of seeing things. We feel better. Things shift. Things fall away. You have had that big time, right? So much has changed for you. And and then our mind wants to figure that out. Now, our mind is used to thinking it's running the show. It's controlling everything, right? So when you, and I don't want to say suddenly because I know it didn't feel suddenly to you, but when you are, like you said, drinking every day, like feeling super anxious, having this breakdown, all this worry, and now here you are off the antidepressants, eating healthy, no longer drinking, that's a lot of change. That's a lot to have happened. Now, I hear you that you don't feel 100% peaceful and secure in that change 100% of the time. I think that's just normal after this much change in a relatively short period of time. It doesn't really matter what the period of time is, but it's a lot to have changed. So what happens is your mind, which again thinks it's still running the show and always has been, is over there saying, "Well, what happened? Well, like, how did this happen? What did you do? What did you see? What did you not see? What might you see more clearly? Do you see this clearly enough? What else can we do?" Like, mind's just over there. Your mind is saying, like you said, uh, don't get stressed out again. If you get stressed out again, it's all going to come back and you're going to be right back to where you started. That's just what a mind does. It's just how a mind narrates life. It acts like it's the one actually doing things, pulling all the strings, even though it isn't. And it's up there having this whole conversation about what this means and that means and how you see it and how you should see it and how it's supposed to look, how other people see it, how it goes for them. Why do you have to reassure yourself? Shouldn't you just kind of know this? All of that stuff. It is so totally 100% completely normal. And it's also totally, completely 100% thought. So it is your mind wanting to make sense of all of this stuff, but these aren't real issues. These aren't real problems at all. In truth, in a bigger way. So that's kind of how your mind is seeing it and how you're experiencing it. What's really going on is you've seen some stuff, amazing. It's made huge change in your life, and you're still human, meaning thought still comes through. And when it comes through, you're in it, right? And when it leaves, you see more clearly from a different state of mind. And you say that so many times in here, James, so clearly. You say it like, when I'm in a higher state of mind, I get it. When I'm in a lower state of mind, I struggle to see that I'm safe. But that's the definition of a lower state of mind. Of course you do. Of course you do. That doesn't mean there's a problem there. That's just showing you that you're in a lower state of mind. So let me flip that around and say it this way. Anytime we don't feel safe, or we're in our heads thinking this might happen, I don't mean, a grizzly bear is chasing you, run. But, when you're in your head saying, oh my gosh, am I going to have another breakdown? Is that going to happen? Do I not see it enough? All that stuff. That just is a low mood. That's just showing you that you have a lot on your mind. It's not telling you that any of that content of what you're thinking about is true. Not at all. It's just showing you your state of mind in that moment. Period. Period. So, of course, you struggle to see it in a low state of mind, because that's what a low state of mind is. It's when we struggle to see things clearly. They're the same thing. And of course, when you're in a higher mood or a higher state of mind, as you say, however we want to say that, you see things clearly, because that's what that is. It's the definition of it. It's the same thing. It just means there's not a lot of thinking in the way. And here you are, and now you see things a different way, a nicer way. So see that? So there's no problem here. There's no problem. There's just you seeing it how you see it in a moment, and then thought comes in and you see it differently, and then thought moves out and you see it differently. The more we can get a feel for that we're always going to have these ups and downs, and things are going to look however they look, and that is not a problem ever, the more we just roll with it. The more you're just in life and things are just moving along, and again, there's nothing to think about or complain about or worry about in that, because it just truly is how it is. So very, very often, all the time, probably almost all the time, there's this sort of wobble that happens, and it happens kind of forever. And in the Little School of Big Change, we talk about the spiral, going around the spiral. Wobble, spiral, we can make up a million visuals for it, but we, you're onto something, you see it, thought comes in, you think, oh no, I lost it, that's not true, life can't be that simple, who was I to think, all that stuff. And then you snap out of that and you're like, oh no, it was true, and you're back and forth. Now in the beginning, and who knows what the beginning is, but kind of early on, the wobble's big. The wobble's huge, because you're suddenly getting some freedom that you hadn't had in a long time, and seeing things that are brand new. And then when old thought comes in, it feels like this giant crash, like what happened to it, and I'm lost and all of that. But that's not true. It's just a big wobble. As time goes on and you come to see, oh, wobbles are part of life, the wobbles don't feel so big anymore. They just feel a little wobbly. No big deal, right? And it just starts to feel like, oh yeah, just have some thinking, or I'm just in a mood, or whatever, and that's it. That's it. Like it truly is that simple when we just see that that's what's going on, that there's absolutely no problem here. And I love what you have seen, James, and how it's shown up for you. And I really just want to reassure you too that there is like what you're in a kind of a wobbly time perhaps. That evens out. Like I said, it gets easier, it gets better to where a little tiny wobble is like, ooh, I'm in some thinking. Oh, here I am out of it. Like that all changes. What used to be big extremes are not big extremes anymore. They already aren't for you, and that's only going to get better and easier the more you're kind of familiar with this. We've been thinking that life works a certain way our whole lives. It's a long time for many of us, decades, multiple decades. We've been seeing life a certain way. We come across something new, we're going to wobble. Our whole thinking is going to come back. I mean, our brain is so habitual. It doesn't want to change, it doesn't want to give you a new way of seeing things, especially a new way of seeing things that kind of doesn't have it as the string puller of life. So it's all so normal. It changes, it gets better. Stay around this conversation in any way you can, because what you've seen already is huge evidence, like just a huge green light that there's so much more that is just going to continue to unfold. So that's really exciting for you. So thank you for sending the question. Again, I know it speaks to a lot of people. And thanks everyone for listening. And I hope to see you in Little School of Big Change starting on Monday. Again, if you have any questions or just want to chat about it at all, you can reach out to me anyway. But I am doing a webinar on Thursday, and I'll put the link here. So have a great week. I'll see you guys next Monday.